All right. I'm not going to keep doing this going right now. Okay, this is like take 10. This is the things of trying to create a YouTube channel. This is my first time here. Well, it's not my first time, but it's a lot. This is like number 10. It's either I'm not recording sound, or I got my fan on trying to stay cool, or just not recording. So many different problems here. So let's get to it. Okay, today we're going to be talking about what should be your first camera and lens setup as a first-time buyer, either as a hobbyist or someone that's trying to get into photography as a career. In my experience, I've purchased a lot of cameras. When I first started out, so many different things that I didn't know, and when you walk into a camera store, they're just trying to sell you whatever so they can make the sale and make money. It really doesn't matter. So my goal for this video is to hopefully help you decide on what should be the first camera you purchase to see a return on that investment, or just to get great imaging as a hobbyist. Let's get started. So first camera I feel as though, from my experience, what is a great camera to purchase is a full frame sensor camera. Why? Full frame sensor gives you better dynamic range, nice highlight roll off, bokeh. It's a lot of benefits to a full frame sensor. And not only that, if you're trying to get into this as a career and do freelance work, a lot of companies would prefer you shoot with a full frame camera. Let's start out with the D750. D750 is an amazing camera. Nikon always has good colors. It does shoot 60 frames at full 1080, as well as 24 frames per second at 1080. Your next camera would be the Canon 6D, not the Mark II, the Mark I. This camera comes in used at $650. 24 megapixel camera as well. The only downside is it shoots 60 at 720, but it does give you full 1080 at 24 frames per second. I have shot with that camera. That was one of my first full frame cameras when I first got into photography and video. My very first camera was a 70D, and then I stepped up to the 60D. So $650, really my only downside to it was the 720. Now we can move on to our third offering, which is the Sony A7, another camera that I use. Gives you full 60, 1080p, and 24 at 1080p. Great camera. Only negative that I seen, the color science wasn't that great, but for me it was the battery. Battery life was not that good. Ran through batteries left and right. I used to have to keep 4 or 5 batteries on me at a time. But overall, it's a good full frame camera coming in at $650. When I purchased it used, I was lucky. I got it for $500. So as we can see, getting into the full frame sensor line is not that expensive nowadays. Very inexpensive, right? So it's a saying that says, marry the lens, date the camera. So now we're going to talk about lenses and why you want to marry the lens. Lenses hold value. So instead of when you purchase the camera, it's not going to hold its value because they're constantly updating those cameras. They're always going to be a better camera. Now we have the A7 III, the 6D Mark II, the EOS R, the EOS RP. Now we are in Nikon Z6, Z7. Look at the pricing of all these cameras though. Z6, $2,000. EOS R, $2,000. A7 III, $2,000. A7, $650. 6D, $650. D750, $850. Right? So lenses, what I feel as though should be Well, let's give you a little backstory. So when I first started getting into photography, everyone used to say, and I was one of those guys that would listen to other people, oh, you need a prime, you need this, you need that. What did I do? So I went out and I bought what everyone said I needed. I bought a 25 Batis, which I sold. 25 Batis 2.0, great lens. I may repurchase it. 35 Zeiss that I'm using now, 1.4, great lens, still have it. And also the Sigma Art 50 mil 1.4, barely uses it, but I do have it. Great lens. I look forward to using it a little bit more once this pandemic is over. But what is my most used lens? 16 to 35, 2.8. If I knew then what I know now, that would have been my first lens. Telephoto, they have what they call the trio, which is your 16 to 35, 24 to 70, and then 70 to 200. If I knew then what I knew now, those would have been the three lenses that I purchased first. Why should the 16 to 35 be your first lens? Just from my experience and my opinion is the 16 to 35 you can see a return on very quickly. When I first purchased my 16 to 35 and an A7, I purchased them to do real estate photography and videography. I didn't want to ruin my A7 III or my A7 R3, so I said, let me get a cheaper camera because it's going to be a lot of clicking on there. I'm going to have a lot of clicks on my shutter. And I don't want to ruin these other cameras. So I purchased the A7 for $500, and then I purchased the Canon L line 2.0. I bought two of them. I had a f4 and a 2.8. I got rid of the f4 and went to 2.8. I wish I kept the f4 because that was image stabilized, and I didn't get as much distortion as I'm getting on the 2.8. So with those two cameras, buying it for real estate, the camera and lens paid for itself within 2 weeks of me using it. I had so many different real estate shoots and I made that money back within 2 weeks. Now with my other cameras, the A7 III and R3, it took years for me to pay those cameras back for the simple fact, for those cameras to make money for the fact that, the A7 III I was doing real estate with, but once I started getting into wedding videography, then those cameras started to give me a return. But if I would have started out with an A7 and 16 to 35, that one camera would have paid for all my other cameras instead of me paying for those cameras out of pocket. So I just want you guys to be smart when purchasing your first camera and think, what is your return going to be at the end of this? Like, what is the return that you want to see? And if you want to be able to progress, you want that camera to fund your business pretty much. Because it is very well possible for one camera to fund your business. So the main takeaway is, if you're going to buy a system that can pay for itself and give you so many different benefits. The benefits of having this system, 16 to 35 full frame, is you can do landscape, real estate, street photography, portrait photography. It's so many different avenues that you can go and potentially make money. The sky's the limit with this setup, and that is my take on why you should have a 16 to 35 and full frame sensor. The investment, the return, it's a no-brainer, people. All right. If you like the video, if you like what we're talking about on this channel, please subscribe, hit that bell notification to be notified when I upload videos like this in the future, and please hit that thumbs up and go down, leave a comment, tell me what do you think about this combination. Is it something you feel as though that was helpful in helping you start out, or do you feel as though another combo will be beneficial to new photographers and videographers? Thank you for tuning in. This is Julius Big Flicks, and I'm out. Peace.